Wherever you go and sit, whether you get into an airplane or a train or a bus or somewhere, when you go and sit, don't you do this? If you sit like this, you must at least be meditative. We when a group of us, anybody was here with us? Who was with us when we were traveling in those underground trains in Paris? Who was with us? Oh, Peter, Karsten, Natalie, Tina, okay, there are lots of them. So, people just get into the train, it's all, you're in close proximity with other human beings. Everybody's like this, not even wanting to even look at the other human being. So, we decided before we get off, we're going to get these people laughing. We had the whole compartment really smiling and laughing in those 10 minutes that we were there. All it takes is sit down. It's not an act. If you don't value life around you, how will you value yourself? In what way? Egoistic value will just kill you. Only if you have life worth, you will enjoy this life. If you value yourself, I am the greatest guy in the world, you will suffer to death. If you want to value life, your life, you must value life around you, isn't it? Yes? If you can do that to every creature, it's wonderful. At least the humans, they come in your own form, So wherever you sit, it's not an act, it's very necessary. If you're alive, you will naturally value the life around you. You're not alive, you're just in your head, just a bundle of thoughts and emotions. Now you're not alive to life. The whole essence of Krishna is just that, bringing you down to life, not what you think and feel is of no consequence. Because if you have little more awareness, you realize you can think and feel whichever way you want, isn't it? One who is unaware thinks, this is the way I think, this is the way I feel. One who is aware can clearly see, I can think whichever way I want, I can feel whichever way I want. If I can feel whichever way I want, if you could feel whichever way you want, how do you feel? Absolutely blissful and loving, this is how you would make your feelings to be, isn't it? Because you're not aware of this, you think it is something of yours, it is you. No, your emotion, your thought is yours. If you're sufficiently aware, you will keep it the way you want it. And the way you want it is definitely sweetness, not bitterness, isn't it? Shall we include people who are behind us also? It hurts a little bit, but it's good for the back. Those of you who have back pain must do it. Why is another human being not even worth one twist of your spine? When you think they're not worth it, in what way will you find worth to your life? Yes? Isn't another human being worth a twist of your spine? So, Shri Krishna arrived in Mathura. They had never been in a big town, they always lived in a village. They played, they wrestled, they climbed trees, they swam. They're healthy and strong. But town is a different place. So they're excited about everything, these two boys, they're looking at everything. And when village people come, there are certain city slick people who want to make fun of them, So certain people tried to make fun of them, play games on them. These two village bumpkins, they've come from somewhere because they're looking at everything like that. But these are overly smart villagers. So whoever tried to make fools of them, they turned things around on them and wrapped them up in such binding situations. Then by the time as they walk, their reputation spread in the town. They walk from street to street looking at the town. As they walked from street to street, their reputation spread. People started talking as if they are, superhuman with little things that they did. So they decided, anyway we are going to… They have come on the king's invitation to attend a festival. Anyway we are going into the royal festival, so we need good clothes. They had none, they were just wearing these clothes and they've traveled in village clothes. They thought they are not good enough. So they found out where the royal clothes maker is. They just walked into his shop and this man was known for his meanness and a big man. So they said, we are going to the royal festival, we have come on the king's invitation. We want to wear some good clothes. We'll return it to you after the function is over. That man looked at these people, these village fools, these two coming and asking for royal clothes to go to royal festival. He raised his fist to smash it on Balarama's head. Immediately Krishna sprang into action and one punch in his nose and he just fell down right there. And a whole street full of people gathered. This man was so big and powerful and he's king's clothes maker, so he can afford to be mean to the whole citizenry. Everybody hated him, but because he's in king's good books, nobody dared to touch him. So these boys who came from nowhere, they just punched him down with a single punch. Everybody, really started celebrating. So their heroism and thing, this is a little town, so it spread. There was a lady in Mathura who was known as Trivakra. Trivakra means 3 different types of deformities in her body. She was a hunchback, her neck was pulled so her face was distorted, and her leg, one of her knees had gone totally stiff, so she had to drag it and walk. She was in a bad condition, 3 different types of deformities. So people called her Trivakra. Though her maiden name was Malini, people just called her Trivakra, 3 deformities, that's her name. People teased her and cursed her and made fun of her. She was the person who handled the perfumes. She has an expertise with perfumes and herbs and grasses. So she handled the perfume for all the ladies in the palace. Trivakra has been told by somebody that Vasudeva's son is the deliverer. When he comes, he may be able to perform a miracle for you. You may become all right. And the stories about Krishna's rasa, about how men and women loved him and danced with him in Gokul has spread far and wide. Even when in his childhood, this became a celebrated culture. These stories of romanticism spread everywhere. So Mathura people have also heard much about it, and she has been waiting for this moment. Ever since she heard about him, about 9 years ago, since then, she's been just waiting. She was a normal, very beautiful woman at one time. About 20 years before this, she was afflicted by some disease and she became a cripple like this. So she's just been hoping that he will come and deliver her. In the meantime, all these gopi stories she has fallen deeply in love with him. She has never seen him, but just hearing the stories, she has developed a huge passion for him. She's just waiting. Someday when he comes and touches me, everything will be okay. She was also called as Kubja. Kubja means a dwarf, because she was bent down so badly. Her spine became bent and she's hunchback and bent down and she's become short like that. So they called her a dwarf. She's not really a dwarf, she was a full-grown woman. But now people call her a dwarf because she's come down in her stature, physical stature like that. This is something that she's been so ashamed of, people making fun of her, but she never said a word. Just to cover her shame and her pain, she always laughed and used these perfumes on people and kept herself going. And she never looked at the mirror because she was afraid, if I look at the mirror, I may lose faith that one day I will be all right. When she spoke to the closest people around her, that someday Vasudeva's son will come and make me all right, people said, you are out of your head. You are crippled for life, you better understand that. The physicians and the relatives and the friends constantly reinforce this Trivakra, give up this stupid dream of being all right one day. This is how you will live. But within her heart she believed, one day when Vasudeva's son comes and touches her, everything will be okay. So she did not want to look at the mirror and lose her faith that she has. If she looks at the nature of her body, she would have lost faith herself because it was so badly distorted. Now, she happened to be there and she saw this whole fun of this royal clothes maker being punched down and all this. Then she asked, who are these boys? Then somebody said, they are Nanda's sons. They have come from Gokula. Then her eyes got riveted on Krishna, this blue-bodied boy, 16-year-old, lithe and tall, and so graceful in his movement. And he's not built heavy, muscular, like a macho man, he's almost slender like a woman. But when he sprang into action, he sprang into action in such moment, in such fury and such quickness that the dyer, the clothes maker, had no chance. He just knocked him down in one punch. When she saw this, the way he was, and with the gracefulness he was handling people and the way he was touching everybody, she suddenly realized this Nanda's son is actually Vasudeva's son. She had heard about it and she went in the crowd. She pushed her way through the crowd. You know, if you're very short, it's easier to push your way through. You know, Mamita? Okay. It's easier to push your way through the crowd. She went through and then she looked up at him and she said, I've been waiting for you for any number of years. With every beat of my heart, I've been waiting for you, O son of Vasudeva. This is a common way of referring, using the father's name. Krishna looked at her, smiled and he said, why have you been waiting for me? How do you know that I was coming? So she said, I have known in my heart that you will come one day and you will make me all right. And Krishna immediately saw the longing that she had for him, the love and longing that she has been nurturing within her and suffering within her. So he just embraced her and almost forcefully straightened her body. And she stood up straight and all right. Immediately this thing spread in the town like crazy. Trivakra is standing straight and graceful once again, 20 years later after her crippling. Once this spread, then people gathered in huge numbers just to have his darshan, to fall at his feet, to touch his hands. The whole town gathered wherever he went, and the news went to Kamsa that such a thing happened. Now real terror started arising within him. It looks like the prophecy is true. He was trying to dismiss it. Kamsa has become a very powerful king beyond the size of his kingdom because he made an alliance with Jarasandha, a very ambitious emperor from the east. Two of Jarasandha's daughters, who were twins, they were given to Kamsa. So Kamsa has married Jarasandha's two twin daughters. So he's formed a strong alliance with the emperor, and because of that strength of the emperor's army behind him, he is blatantly tyrannical. He did terrible things to people. But nobody dares to say anything because Jarasandha is standing behind him. Jarasandha is another story. I will just talk about his birth. His life is a very cruel story of ambition and greed as to how he manipulated himself to become a powerful emperor, the things that he did. His birth, his father was childless, and always for the kings this is the problem, they want to have sons because the kingdom will go into somebody else's hands otherwise. So, a sage had come, so somebody told him, this is a powerful sage, you go there, something may happen. So he went there. When he said this, he was a very pious man, the king. So sage looked at him and said, okay. And he took a mango, blessed the mango, and he said, you give this to your wife, let her eat it, she will conceive. The king took the mango and came to his palace. His problem was, he has married twin girls and he loved each of them equally. He managed the whole situation in such a way, at no time did any one of them feel neglected or feel that one is superior to the other. So when he came to the palace, he did not know what to do with this mango, to whom to give. Because for this woman, their life is not complete unless she bears a son for the child, and also the ambition of your son being the future emperor. So whom to give? There's a whole lot of things, both political, power struggles and an emotional situation, there are many things involved in this. So out of his sense of goodness, I want you to understand your goodness, he decided to make this mango into two halves and give one half to each. When he gave this, both the wives were extremely happy for his sense of inclusion of these two people as the same, his sense of justice for two wives that he has. They ate these half mangoes and both of them conceived. And after the 9-month gestation, when they delivered two halves of a baby. When they saw this, they got so terrified, this is just a piece of meat. So they got so terrified, something inauspicious has happened. So they asked the maids to just roll it in a cloth and throw it in a dustbin. 2 pieces of a baby. So they rolled it and put it there in 2 separate pieces of cloth, and there was a… she's described as a demon, but these are wild tribes who are cannibalistic. So her name is Jara. Let us right now call her a demon. She's a wild woman who is cannibalistic in nature. She was going about looking for food and she smelt meat, she smelt blood. So she went and looked in the bin, there was blood, so she just took these things and went away into the forest. There she opened her meal and she found 2 pieces of a baby. Just out of curiosity, she just put them like this and they became one and the baby started crying. She saw this wonderful boy and she didn't have the heart to kill him and eat him. She made inquiry and she came to know what happened in the palace. So she took the baby and gifted it to the king. She said, this is your baby. It came in 2 wombs separately, in 2 halves. and I put them together. So the king and the queens were so happy that the baby has come alive, and what a dastardly thing they did throwing this into the bin. So his name became Jarasandha because Jara, this demon, put them together. Sandha means to put it together. So he was called Jarasandha, put together by Jara. So Jarasandha grew up into a very powerful emperor, and this putting together has some significance later, how Krishna handles this situation, we will see that later. So Jarasandha became a very cruel and powerful conqueror. He ruled with an iron fist, and he was looking for strong alliances, and Kamsa was his prize catch. He gave his daughters to him and made him a strong ally. He was looking for other allies, and that's a long story, we'll look at that later. But this Kamsa's arrogance and tyranny was powered by Jarasandha's army behind him. He is extremely arrogant and tyrannical because the emperor's army is standing behind him. So this is the situation, but now terror arose within him. Is the prophecy really true? The boy has come and he seems to be performing miraculous deeds. The moment he comes, he's already endeared himself to the whole town. Everybody is chanting Krishna, Krishna everywhere. So he had devised methods, and a few of them failed. So he thought up one more thing. He called a man whose name was Angarika. Angarika was the chief Mahut. You know who's a Mahut? The man who handles… the elephant handler. He's the chief Mahut. There was a full-grown bull elephant which was known for its very violent temperament. This elephant was called as Kuvalyapida. This Kuvalyapida elephant was a legend and a terror for everybody because he's such a violent temper and he's a full-grown elephant. People were terrorized by him. Many times the king used Kuvalyapida with devastating impact in the battles that he fought. So he called Angarika, the chief Mahut, and told him, when the procession begins and these boys enter the gates of the palace, you must ensure that Kuvalyapida just stamps this boy to death. There should be no chance. So they selected a narrow street and parked Kuvalyapida there. It was planned to be parked there. Then… is the story getting too okay with you? Because without understanding the story, you will not understand the significance of the actions that he performed. Rukmini is a young girl, a beautiful princess, which was ruled by her father, whose name was Bhishmaka, and her brother Rukmi was very ambitious and a close friend of Kamsa and an ally of Jarasandha. The father had become old and had not much power over the kingdom. The young man is raging like a young bull, wanting to align with these evil kings who are around, who are powerful, because he's got ambitions to become very powerful. So he wants to give his sister in marriage to another king called Shishupala, who is also aligned with Jarasandha. So these are a group of kingdoms who are all aligned towards conquering the whole land in a most brutal fashion. So their alliance is building up, and the diplomacy in these alliances were always formed generally with marriage. It's like a guarantee. You make a deal with somebody, you're still not sure. He may back out, he may turn against you, but your daughter is in their house, so they cannot touch you. So they were all forming these type of alliances. So Rukma or Rukmi wanted to give Rukmini to Shishupala to strengthen the alliance. But Rukmini, in her very early childhood, she had fallen in love with Krishna, never seen him. Too many like this. They don't have to see him, just the stories about him just drove them crazy and they fell in love with him. So Rukmini happened to be a palace guest along with the princesses. There was talk going on how this cowherd boy is going to be crushed by the elephant today. The king has ordered that this boy should be crushed. So they were making jokes about how this cowherd, whom people believe is God himself, is going to be crushed by Kuvalyapida. So Rukmini heard this and she could not contain herself. So she came and whispered to Trivakra. Trivakra is now straightened out and beautiful woman. This cripple has become a beautiful woman now. And she told Trivakra. So Trivakra told her, they cannot kill him. He's God. See what he's done to me? How I was just 24 hours ago, how I was. See how I am right now. See what he has done to me. They are not going to kill him. But anyway, find out more details about what it is. So Rukmini found out more details about how they planned it, where. Then Trivakra, or we can now use her previous name Malini, because she is no more Trivakra. She is a little older woman, married. After her marriage this happened. Once she became crippled like this, her husband deserted her 20 years ago. And her husband happens to be working in the place where the elephants are kept. He's Angaraka, he's the chief officer there, in charge of the elephants. So it's Angaraka who's been ordered to handle the elephant, to kill Krishna. So she thought she will go. 20 years she had never seen the man. Now he is married with 2 wives. Going there was little difficult for her, but she was willing to do anything. So she went, and Angaraka was in deep suffering because he did not want to do such a thing. But the king has ordered, there is no way to refuse the order, so he was going through a deep turmoil. Suddenly when he saw Trivakra walking in, he really thought she's some kind of an angel because he has seen Trivakra all twisted out. Now she walked in as a graceful woman. He just couldn't believe this. So Trivakra used that as a means and she said, say, this is God. He has come to free us from this tyranny. This is the time for you to stand up and do something. Already he was in turmoil that he did not want to do such a thing, but there is no way. When Trivakra came, this became the way for him. So Angaraka asked, what to do? How can I refuse his orders? If I refuse, I will be dead by morning. He will not spare me for a moment. And once I take Kuvalyapida into the street, it's a narrow street. If he goes berserk, there is nothing that anybody can do. He is very violent. He will kill everything in the way. So, because Trivakra was well versed with herbs, she brought an armful of herbs and she and Angaraka sat there through the night and fed Kuvalyapida with these herbs. Next day morning, when the appointed time came, drums started beating, conches started blowing, that the festival is beginning. So Krishna and Balarama, fully dressed in the regal clothes that they stole from the emperor's clothes shop, walked regally dressed. Kamsa was standing in the balcony, twirling his moustaches. He knew the boys will be taken care of by the elephant. Then the elephant was parked right there in the narrow street. Krishna and Balarama came. But suddenly this elephant was not as violent and aggressive as it normally used to be. Its demeanor had become somehow very friendly to people. Whoever is going that way, it wants to give its trunk for patting. It suddenly became friendly and looked sleepy. So they had drugged the elephant with some herbs, so it was just barely awake, and It was little drunk and lot of people who do not know how to be loving and sweet and friendly to somebody, when they get drunk, they become very sweet and nice, they sing songs to everyone. Yes? Alcohol loosens them, that happens to animals too. So this elephant was totally stoned with some kind of herb and it was almost sleepy and suddenly friendly like never before. So Krishna walked in and Akrura, his uncle, who knew that all this has been planned, was in great fear and he screamed, "Krishna, don't go there." But Krishna looked the elephant in the eye coolly, walked straight to the elephant and the elephant just nuzzled up to him, he just patted its trunk and as if they were great friends. And slowly this elephant started losing control over itself and its legs started slipping and just slowly went down and slept right there on the street. He just fell asleep right there on the street and Kamsa, who was watching this, just couldn't believe this. Once again, people just exploded and said, "Krishna has performed the miracle. He just touched the elephant and put it to sleep." Krishna walked beyond this. Now Kamsa was really desperate. He called his advisor of many years, a very cunning man. He called him and told him, "Somehow get Krishna into the wrestling ring. And I want Chanura." Chanura was the master wrestler in the royal thing, and Mushtika, who was the royal champion of the year. These two men should make sure Krishna somehow enters the ring and we must kill him there. So his advisor and minister said, "How can you do this? Chanura, a great master wrestler, cannot invite a 16-year-old boy into the wrestling ring. It's against the dharma, it's against the rules of the game. He cannot wrestle with a 16-year-old boy." Kamsa said, "To hell with the rules, I want this to happen. If it doesn't happen, you will be dead by the end of the festival." So it was accordingly arranged. Chanura and Mushtika, the two great wrestlers who have been unbeatable for many years, were told it is their mission to kill Krishna and Balarama, somehow lure them into the ring and kill them. According to the rules of the Bahu Yuddha, there was no killing in the ring. If you just hold a person down, the back of the head, if it touches the floor for more than 10-15 seconds, that means the game is over. He's lost and it's out. It's called chit. That if your back of the head touches the wrestling ring and the wrestler can hold the other wrestler down for 10 to 15 seconds, the game is up. It is not about injuring or killing the person. Though that is the rule of the game, many times Chanura has grievously injured people and even caused fatalities because he was such a huge man. Beyond his muscle, he is hugely muscled. Beyond that, he has enormous amount of flesh and girth to him, a big belly. He's like a sumo wrestler, huge. So all he would do is, when he wants to eliminate somebody, all he had to do was just put his weight on them. Just get them down and put his full weight on them, that would just crush their ribs and people had died in the past. So as per the rules, technically he is still correct, he did not do anything to kill them, but they died anyway. So the game started, great amount of excitement, lot of people have gathered, royalty, guests, Nanda, that is Krishna's foster father, and Vasudeva, his biological father, and the whole family, everybody is there. They are all sitting there with their hearts in their mouth, what will happen? Because they firmly believe that Krishna has come to deliver them, free them of Kamsa. and his tyranny. But at the same time they're afraid, these young boys, what may happen to them? Already many attempts have been made on their life. So when the game started, they had many dozens of wrestlers wrestling and lot of excitement happening, people winning, losing happening. Then Chanura made his rounds around the ring. Krishna and Balarama, regally dressed, were sitting in an enclosure that is for the villagers. There is a royal enclosure, there are guests, there are important people of high rank, but this is a common people's, villagers, ordinary villagers where they sit. They are sitting there because they don't have any royal passes to get anywhere else. So Chanura came and, all those things, he slapped his thighs and his biceps and went around inviting people, is anybody man enough to wrestle with me? That kind of thing. And he particularly came in front of this enclosure where Krishna and Balarama were eagerly sitting, wanting to watch the games. He taunted them. "Oh, son of Nanda, you have come. They say you have great skill with wrestling, why don't you come and wrestle?" People started shouting, "No, no, a young boy cannot cannot wrestle with a man like you." So, but Chanura continued taunting Krishna in many ways. This continued. For everything that he said, Krishna said an appropriate answer with a big smile. Not being insulted by all the insults that he's hurling, he wants to taunt him, to make him angry and somehow get him into the ring. Krishna is not getting angry, he doesn't get angry, he's cool as ever. He gets angry only when he wants to. Because for him, his awareness is such that for him, the whole life, the whole planet is just a drama stage for him. He plays the game right, the way it should be. He has no other ego compulsions to jump into the ring and prove his manhood or something like this, he has no such problems. So he sat there, for every taunt that Chanura threw, an appropriate taunt, he threw it back at him about the size of his belly, about the ugliness of his face, about his bullet head. Like this he made fun of him. Chanura was getting angry. Then he said, "Why are you not coming and wrestling with me? Are you not a man?" Because this is the tradition, a Kshatriya, if he is challenged, he has to go and fight. If somebody challenges, you can't back out. You know those duels even in the West, somebody challenges you for a duel, you have to do it. You can't back out, if you back out, you're considered no good. So Chanura is trying to taunt him and get him there. So he asked, "Why? Why are you not coming and wrestling with me?" Krishna, as a 16-year-old boy, he said, "I don't have my father's permission to wrestle. That's why I don't wrestle." So Chanura said, "Oh, how will your father give you permission? Because he knows that you can only dance with milkmaids." Then it went beyond that point. Then it came to a point where Chanura abused his father. "You're not of the right breeding, that's why you're not coming and fighting with me. Your breeding is not right." Then Krishna looked at his father and said, "Father, you must grant me permission." It's gone beyond a certain point now. So Krishna took off his royal robes and it's called a langoti. It's a simple cloth tied tightly around the loins for wrestling. With that, he got into the ring. In the meantime, Mushtika, the other champion wrestler, was trying to taunt Balarama. Balarama is easy to taunt, he will get madly angry. The moment Krishna jumped into the ring, Balarama took it as a permission from him, for him also, and immediately jumped into the ring. And without giving a chance for anything, he just pounced upon Mushtika and broke his neck within seconds. Right there, the whole crowd watching, this 18, 19-year-old boy just broke the neck of a champion wrestler without even giving him a chance to grapple with him. Just he entered the ring, broke his neck, just like that. People went euphoric, they couldn't believe that a little boy like this, he was big built, but a young boy with supposed to be no record behind him of winning wrestling matches. This is the first time he's in a competition, he just went and broke his neck and he was dead. So now the wrestling match between Chanura and Krishna started. This is a huge mountain of a man, and here is a very elite, agile 16-year-old Krishna. The crowd booing at Chanura and supporting Krishna, Jai Krishna, Jai Krishna. A big excitement, the crowd, how they go. They want to see something happen. So Chanura is trying to use his strength, and all he wants is, he wants to grab the boy. If he gets him in his arms, he knows he will crush him. Krishna knows that too. So this man is a mountain, he moves in a certain way. Krishna is lithe and agile, all this dancing has kept him so agile that he just moved all over the ring. Never was Chanura even able to lay his hands upon him. And Krishna noticed something that nobody had ever taken note of about Chanura. He noticed that he was using his left leg little tenderly. It looked like it was in pain and in some kind of weakness. He was constantly using his right leg, trying to avoid the weight on his left leg. He saw this, and every time he avoided him, he kicked his left leg. Every time he kicked his left leg, Chanura went into a very painful spasm and almost fell down quite a few times. This was absolutely amazing for the crowd. They couldn't believe the great Chanura. He's just falling down because this little boy kicks him. But Krishna just noticed that there is some pain, an injury in his left leg, and went on hitting it again and again and again. And he just exhausted him. Chanura's strength is just this, he's big. He used his size. If any wrestler came, all he has to do is somehow get them into his arms and fall down upon them. Just the weight would finish them. Now Krishna made him run so much, he became so breathless. He became so breathless and he couldn't handle this boy because he's yet to lay his hands upon him. So this went on for a certain period, and Kamsa was getting more and more angry and terrorized because if he kills Chanura, the next thing is him. So this happened for a while, and then Krishna just went up on Chanura. He did not wrestle with him, he just ran up Chanura's body, sat on his shoulder and broke his neck. And the wrestling was over. People just could not believe this, and a huge celebration began. Not only this, the Magadha, this Jarasandha's soldiers were there. That kingdom was called as Magadha. The Magadha soldiers were always placed in for Kamsa's protection. He did not trust his own people. He thought the Yadavas may revolt any time. So he had a small contingent of Magadha army in his palace all the time for his protection. The Magadha soldiers were all positioned properly, strategically positioned. So the Yadavas came with their arms and they also placed themselves. And the moment this happened, a whole lot of violence started. The Magadha soldiers attacked, and the first person that they went for was Krishna's father. And this was expected, and so they fell the soldier who went for them, and a battle kind of situation started happening. This huge crowd of innocent people, women and children shrieking, not knowing where to go, a stampede was happening. Krishna saw this scene. In a moment he grasped where it's going, and he knew he had to do something. He just jumped over the barrier that enclosed the wrestling ring, and he saw Kamsa in his fury pulled out his sword and was coming. He just went, and as he was going, Akrura, the uncle of Krishna and Kamsa, tried to stop Kamsa because he was going with a sword to kill the boy. And Kamsa turned around to knock him down. When he turned around, Krishna just ran up held him by the hair. He had long hair. He just held him by the hair and pulled him down. He lost grip over his sword and fell backwards. He just dragged him into the wrestling ring and took Kamsa's sword, and just with one slash, he just looked around, the violence was spreading. So with one slash, he just beheaded him right there. Took the conch that Kamsa was wearing around his shoulder and blew it as a trumpet of victory. Then everything stopped. People knew what has happened, that the prophecy has come true. Kamsa is dead, killed by a 16-year-old boy. Everything just became still. Then some people burst into celebration that Kamsa is dead, the prophecy has come true and all this. Krishna said, quiet. This is not a time for celebration. Our king is dead. This is a time for mourning. I have done what was needed, but this is not something that we should celebrate. Our king is dead, we must mourn. That's how he was made. So from there, his mission began. Here he got properly established as the savior for that race. Here he got properly established as the deliverer, because as it was prophesied, he came at the age of 16 and put an end to this tyrant.